Hello and welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here. So thrilled that we get to do our live audience episode today. And we're going to do something active. We're going to be doing something experiential. So please you'll want to have something to write with and something to write on that's going to help you. I'm going to guide us through an experience that I like to do anytime there feels like an overwhelm of to-do list items, any kind of swirl, any sort of, I call it the poltergeist hallway. If anyone's had that experience where it just keeps getting longer and longer, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, let me know. Where you have this list of all the things that would be good to do and helpful to do, and the writing and the marketing and the pitching and the all the things, right? So we're going to take some deep, big inhales and exhales together. And I'm going to guide you through a process that really helps me. That's great to do, whether it's at the start of a week or the start of just a moment where you find yourself maybe starting to breathe shallowly or feel any sort of pressure around what is on the list, what's the most important thing. Because the truth is that we probably all have 8 months of work on our to-do list that we think, needs to be done today, right? If anyone's had this, let me know if you're in our live audience or if you're on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, zooming in or live streaming in. Let me know if you've experienced this either recently or today. So it's your lucky day if this is up for you, because we are going to do this process that helps get us focused, centered, grounded, so that we can have an incredible week, a productive week, a transformational week, a week where we get to make really big impact in the world with the things that matter the most, and where we get to increase our financial abundance, right? Because often we can focus on the urgent unimportant. If you've heard of that delineation, right? We focus on it's urgent, it's a task, I've got to do it, I got to return this email, versus what's actually the most important things that are going to change the trajectory of the rest of my day, week, month, year, life. All right. So that's what we're up to today. I'm excited to do this because I use this process over and over and over while I'm in the position like right now. Again, those of you who've been following along with this time in my life, my thought leadership, my business, I am writing the 7th book. I'm on a very intense timeline around that. I run 2 businesses. I have a son that just started high school this past week. I've been married 24 years. I have a dog. I have family that I care about. I have community that matters. I have friendships. So it's not like there's just any of those things could be we all know this. Being a parent can be a full-time job. Running one business can be a full-time job. Being an author is a full-time job. Being a thought leader is a full-time job. So we are, having many, many lives, many, many responsibilities and jobs happening. And how can that still be fun? How can it be empowering? How can we still show up and really feel at the end of the day that we did the things that mattered most? That's what we're doing today. And we're doing this because it's sort of a back to school. If you're listening to this or watching it when it comes out, this is sort of back to school time in the calendar, whether you are, in a situation where school is involved for you or someone you live with or not. I love this energy in Chicago, where I live. The just for the first time in months dip down to a little bit of a crisp feeling in the air. There's a little coolness in the breeze. You can definitely feel the first hints of autumn, which is a season that I love. So we're just going to be in that energy and get ready to make a big leap this week. So the first thing that I want to mention to everybody is that this is a paradigm I want us to play with. Great leaders in the studies, because people are always studying leaders and leadership and who's the top people of influence and in the world making the biggest impact on the planet. Great leaders, there are certain traits of great leaders, and we could do a whole series, which maybe we will because it's really interesting to me, on the habits, the mindsets, the actions, the strategies of great leaders. And one of them that we're going to talk about today, one of these hallmarks, these common denominators of great leaders, are that great leaders take action based on their vision, not on what they feel like doing, not on what is easiest, not on what is most urgent and unimportant, not on if they think they're good enough, not on fill in the blank, right? Great leaders make decisions about what they do every day based on a vision, based on the big goals. And this is what separates people who get stuck in the weeds and people that can truly lead and produce great works of art or innovation or science or industry, whatever it is. Okay. So that's the first kind of part of the setup to the process that we're going to do and the work that we're going to do today is really talking about the idea that if we lead by default, which means whatever's urgent, unimportant, or do I feel like it? Am I inspired? Do I think I'm good enough? We are going to get very subpar results. Very subpar results, because what happens is that we just kind of spiral to the lowest common denominator of what our day could be. And we get to the end of the day and think, oh my gosh, I didn't touch my book. I didn't make that important outreach about speaking. I didn't move my business forward in a substantial way in my revenue, but I answered all my emails. Like, let me know if anyone else has been there. I checked some stuff off my list, right? I've done it. Probably lots of us have done it. I know that I've done that. And so a shift came when I started to do what I'm going to guide you through right now. And the first part of it is understanding great leaders are making their decisions based on the vision. And what does that mean? It means that you've got to know what your big vision is, right? So let's just get that locked in order to make this process valuable and tangible for all of you watching and listening. We want to make sure, what is the big vision? When you think about where you want to be, let's say at the end of this calendar year, what is the one, two, or three things that are the absolute most important to you? Okay. I want everyone to get really clear, get out something to write with or type with. I like handwriting this particular exercise first. I can always, type it in, but I like to, have a pen and my tear sheet because it just helps me focus. Okay. So what is the most important, what are the most important one, two, or three goals you have between now and the end of the year? Okay. Take a minute and just breathe into that, feel into it, and ideally write them down. Remind yourself what is actually most important to you. Let's do it together now. Let's do it in real time. All right. So, real time, top three by the end of the year. Okay, we've got something. All right, we've got something. I love it. All right, now what we want to do then, if this is where we need to go by the end of the year, right? Then we need to think about if you had to sum up if you were writing a book about your life and you were going to write a chapter title for this chapter of this part of your life, what would be the identity? What would be the statement? So let's say one of your big goals is finishing your book and getting into the publishing process. So maybe you would capture that by best-selling author. Okay. Maybe you're growing your revenue. Like, we, in some of you that are in our live Zoom room, having your community niche built, setting up big ticket sales, growing clients. Maybe there it's, seven-figure entrepreneur or CEO, six-figure coach. Like, give yourself a name. If you were thinking of who is the person that accomplishes this by the end of the year, and then give yourself a description of that. And I'll explain why this is important. Okay, so those of you in our live audience, if you want to share that in the chat so that we can see exactly, what you're claiming, right? What is that identity statement that you have that says, like, this is not who you've been up until now, but who you get to be, how you get to be living between now and the end of the year, where these big goals that you have are inevitable. Okay. So come up with a statement that describes that for you. All right. And if you're in the live audience, you can share yours if you want to. Okay. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. We're doing this workshops. We're doing this episode workshop style today. Okay. Great. Okay. So we've got some coming in. All right. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to think about of all the things on your to-do list, okay? And you can pause this later and you can go back to the recording of this if you want to. You're going to think about all the things that are grabbing at your attention, okay? You're going to think about like all the different you could just give yourself a moment to kind of just data dump everything that you think you should be doing, could be doing, want to be doing, have to do. Sometimes we have obligations, right? They are what they are. If it's time to submit your taxes or, file whatever or get your teeth cleaned, there's just things, right? that we get to do in life. All right. So you're going to have all your things, right? All the things, and you can take some time to just, write like, okay, these are all the things that are clamoring for my attention. It's probably a big, ridiculous list that no human being could ever do in a week, let alone a day, right? I know some of you in here in the live audience are nodding. You know what I mean. Okay, great. Now, what I want us to do is just like clear all of that out, whether you wrote some things down or you go back to this and pause and generate that whole big list. Just do a kind of lion's breath in through the nose and then kind of a yeah, yeah. Ruby's like 8 A4 pages worth of list, right? There's a million things. And that's never going to be we're never going to get that all done in one day. And we don't need to. That's the exciting part about this. Great leaders make their decisions and take action based on their vision. So how does that work here? Then we're going to say, great, okay, of all the things I could be doing today, what does and then fill in the blank of your identity statement. What does the 7-figure CEO do today? You could say, what are the top 3 actions, no matter what? I call these the P1s. Priority 1. What does the 6-figure coach or the best-selling author or the 7-figure CEO or the known thought leader or whatever description you used about the next level you're going to ask, what does that person from all the things on my big list of all, whether it's swirling in my head or I wrote it down, all the things, what are the P1s? Like if this person was going to, my high school mantra, wake up, kick ass. If this new me is going to wake up and kick ass today, what are the 3 most important priority actions that happen? And if there needs to be 5 because there's just things, that's fine. But let's take a few minutes. We're doing this workshop style again, and let's write down, like, if you were going to have your most powerful, most impactful, the things that would move the needle the absolute most forward, what are your 3 priorities for today? Let's all do that now. And just keep breathing. Just ask. You're not asking what you're willing to do or you're going to do. You just say, what would this person do? What would the me that accomplishes these goals by the end of the year, what would he, she, they prioritize today? The non-negotiables that would advance the vision forward the most. Okay. So if you're in the live audience, put a P for P1 in the chat if you've identified some P1s. P1 is a category, not just a numeric. So I consider anything of these like top 3 or 5 P1s. Now, there are some also necessities, right? You have things you promise someone to get back to them on something, or you're committed to a particular event, or like I'm picking up my son from football. Like that's going to happen, whatever, right? Like I am doing that, right? So, okay, so we're generating some P1s and some Ps, all right? This is really important because your mind is going to go, how many of you that are here live and those of you watching and streaming on the other platforms, please put a comment, everybody, where you are. How many of you, if you look at the P1s that you identified, would have done something different as the focus of your day? I'm going to give you a real life example. I know I'm in that category. Okay. I'm glad I'm not alone. Yeah. Yes. I love that, Moverine. I love that. More public recognition and a platform to train patients on how to respond to clinical teams who respond negatively, particularly with African Americans. Yes, so important. So, that's your mission, that's your priority, right? Absolutely. Okay. So, what happens is the things I would have done just feel like, again, the urgent things. I need to reply to this person's email. I need to grab the link for this. I need to da 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 da. Versus what's actually the most important based on my vision were different actions. And so now I get to make a choice, right? Now I get to make a choice and say, who am I going to be today? In Atomic Habits, James Clear says that every decision we make, every action we take is a vote for our future. It's a vote for our future self. So, do I want my future self to stay right where I am or go backwards? Then I would just do the urgent, unimportant things, even though they're so tempting. And you also get the satisfaction of checking stuff off, because often the most priority things are the ones that take more thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking. I might have resistance. I might have imposter syndrome. I might feel fear. I might feel afraid of rejection. I might feel afraid of failure. A lot of times the P's bring up all kinds of emotional stuff, right? And so this is, yes, yeah. Some of you are going to turn your pain into articles, like Susan is saying here in the live Zoom room. All right. So here's the thing. Then we get to ask, am I willing to play the game of being my future self now? Am I willing to play big today and actually do the priority actions? So here's an example. On Friday, I had a, poltergeist hallway to-do list, and all of it actually felt urgent and important in terms of, we're getting ready to host an event in New York in just over a month. We've got, all kinds of different things going on that we're doing in the businesses. And I have a book. The manuscript is due November 1st. And it's a lot. And so the most important thing when I did this exercise on Friday morning was to get a 10-page excerpt of the book to the book cover designer so that we could design this cover, because we're going to be doing the Times Square billboards in New York City and it needs to be done. That was the priority action. Now, it's the action I least wanted to do. Why? Because that meant showing someone, and I've been in messy first draft mode with this book, and I don't want anyone to see this messy first draft that is, like, I already know is not beautiful and polished and, New York Times ready. And I didn't want to deal with it because it felt hard. Like all the other things, like, oh, I could email this person or call this person or write this other thing. That felt like the challenging one, but it really was the P1, capital P, big one. All right. So I figured out a window of time. It took me 4 hours to get that into a shape when I would be willing to show it to someone. But I actually, for the first time in ages, had 4 hours in a row to, a window. My son was at a new student event, and I had a 4 hour block. And I just went in there and I was like, I'm not stopping until I have something I can send. Right. So I was able to do that priority action, and it was crucial for many reasons to be able to do it. So you can think about, this is how you check your P list. When you go to bed tonight, what are you going to feel awesome about yourself? No matter what else happens in the day, you're going to feel amazing that you did what, right? that you checked a bunch of little stuff off your list, or that you did the high priority actions that are aligned with your vision. The new book is a huge part of my vision, not only for the rest of this year, but it's going to come out in 2026, a year from now-ish. So it's a long game. I don't get the instant gratification of checking, but it's crucially important. And I felt so much better that I just did the thing that was the most important thing. Today, my list, I would have loved to just check off all the stuff, all the little quick, I want to check it off, I want to check it off. But the most important thing, one of which has to do with pitching some things, which means I have to face my fear of rejection, right? I have to face my fear of failure. I could reach out and people could say no. They could say nothing. They could ignore the message and never respond to me at all, right? So that's not the stuff that feels easy and fun to do, because not only is it I've got to be thoughtful. When I pitch, if you, those of you that train with me, we teach a 6-step process. It's not just a cold cut and paste spammy kind of message. It's thoughtful, it's heart-centered. I get myself into frequency. I really look to be generous, create a win for the other person if I'm pitching a speaking engagement or sponsors or anything like that. So it's not just I don't just go on AI and get it all written for me, right? I care because people will feel that there's a relationship. They're going to feel like it's a relational ask, not a transactional ask. And that's important to me. That's my integrity. It's also, it turns out you get a lot more yeses when you pitch this way, right? We all know that generosity and integrity and real win-wins. So that's not the stuff that feels that the pitching work and the outreach work is the most important priority. When I think about my vision, what would that person do today? It would be focusing on those things. But yes. Okay. Others of you are saying I've been effectively avoiding those outreach, right? Because it's uncomfortable. For me, it takes more thoughtfulness. It's not just a quick, easy task. And there's also the, just uncomfortable thing of being vulnerable and putting ourselves out there. And people could say no or reject us, right? But that's all a ruse anyway. The only real way to fail is to not show up for our vision today. That's the only real way to fail. It really is. That's just because we take ourselves out of the game, right? Now I could send all this outreach and no one could write back, but I believe in processional effect, and great leaders do too. Processional effect, if you don't know it, haven't heard me talk about it, is that every time we take a powerful action in service of our vision, these P1s, that will return in the form of success, abundance, and opportunity in some way. It may be exactly the way we want. I might reach out to someone today and they say, oh my gosh, thank you for inviting me. Yes, I would like to sponsor this. Yes, I would like to join this. Yes, I would like to attend whatever, right? That could happen. Or no one could respond to me from any of the outreach I do today, or people could say no. And tomorrow or in a month, suddenly someone out of the blue emails, direct messages, text me. It happens over. I've been tracking processional effect for over 10 years, and it is real every time. But what we do is say, oh, nothing happened. It didn't work. And then we don't want to do anything else, right? Because our human mind can't see the bigger picture of processional effect, right? So I want to just encourage everyone to really think about that. We don't do our P1s and then sit there and sulk if it doesn't turn into an instant manifestation, right? That's playing small. We are practicing leadership. We are practicing entrepreneurial publishing. We are practicing being true thought leaders. We've got to lead our own thoughts first effectively. And one of the ways I do this is by reminding myself of my top 3 goals, reminding myself of the identity that I'm stepping into, then saying, of all the things that are pulling at my attention, what are the most priority, usually 3 to 5 a day, actions that are the most impactful, that move the needle the most, that are going to create the biggest opportunities, they have the biggest potential to both contribute to the world and receive success and abundance. And when I consistently do those things, truly miraculous things show up. Not always the way I think, not always the day I do them. So we've got to get out of that small thinking where we're, oh, it didn't work, it didn't happen, no one wrote me back, no one wants what I have, no one's. No, we're not playing that game. We focus on action. The outcome takes care of itself. The action, the outcome of the money or the yes or the opportunity or the book being, published is the result. Right? The goal is that we take priority actions aligned with our vision. That's where truly miraculous things will happen for you. I've coached for over 20 years. I've been monitoring this specifically in my life and our clients that want to share their wins with me for over 10. It's real. Now, how do we take this all the way home? Because I can remind myself of my vision and I can claim that identity and I can make my priority 3 to 5 list. And then when I have 800 new emails and the text is going and my son needs something and whatever is happening, or I'm just tired or cranky or feeling insecure, it's very tempting to just default back to the easy, just get stuff done. That's not the P ones. So how am I going to ensure, how am I going to put some fail safes around me so that I actually do the things? For me, that has required for me to have what I call a EOD buddy, end of day. Okay. So I pick someone that I do not want to disappoint. I do not want to be out of integrity with. I do not want to say, oh, yeah, I let my imposter syndrome get in the way, or I fill in the blank, right? With total love. I don't have to judge myself. I don't pick, it's not about anyone judging me or me judging myself. But it's someone who, if I partnered up with Moverine, I know how important her mission is, right? I don't want to text Moverine at the end of the day and say, "Oh yeah, I didn't do that writing I promised to do. I didn't do the outreach. I got my emails returned. You know what? I cleaned my closet, which I do love cleaning a closet. I did a lot of home organization this weekend and writing, kind of toggled, right? Family time, home stuff and that. But the end of day, EOD. So at the beginning of the day, you tell your person, here's my P1s. And at the EOD, at the end of day, if I'm doing this with Carissa, I say, Carissa, my 3 P1s are this: 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do this many sponsor outreaches. I'm going to write 1,000 words and on the new book, and I am going to uh, uh, return messages and nurture these 3 relationships of people who said they were interested in working together. Okay. Those are and I'll give the names even of those 3 people. At the end of the day, I let Carissa know what I did. Right. I say, hey, I wrote 1,000. When I did this, I did it for 1 entire year without missing a day, 365 days, even on holidays. My P1 is to be with my family and enjoy. That was still a day we, committed. That was the year I made the most money ever that I've made so far. It was the year I made the biggest impact I'd ever made so far. I affirm this year is going to be better, but I did it last year. I felt the most empowered and I had the most confidence because I was building trust with myself. I wasn't walking my goals back. I wasn't making excuses. I wasn't pretending that, it's okay to not do the really important things. And I was just walking in my identity. Because every day I said, here's the P1s based on this new level of me. And then here's what I did. And there were many, I would say 50% of the days, because I talked about it with my partner that we are my colleague that we did this with last year. And we both said that at least 50% of the days, if not more, we would not have done even half of those P1s if we hadn't had that structure in place. Not even half. Because there were days when I said I'd write 1,000 words and I'd written like 400 words and I would have just been like, yeah, it's good. I'll make it up tomorrow. But I said 1,000 words to her. So it didn't matter if it was late at night, that's when it happened. If I had to get up early in the morning, it happened. Before I did my end of day, it was like, I did the 1,000. Sometimes those words were not good, but I got them done, right? It's okay. It's okay because the great pages, the great words are built on the backs of just the ones we just need to get out. So this has worked for me completing. This is how I've written 6 books already and I'm on the 7th. This is how I've run 2 businesses. This is how I've grown revenue from 20,000 a year to 1 million or more a year, right? This works for so many things because it combines the brain science of the identity work, the productivity and focus of what are really the most, you already know. You know what you know what your P's are. You know what your P's are. You know, and if you don't, what I would do if I wasn't sure what to do, like, I don't know what's going to move the needle. I feel like I'm trying everything and it's not happening. My P1 is to find at least one person who had done what I want to do and find a way to either read about them, watch an interview about them, or talk to them if it's someone I had access to. Just say, hey, I'm trying to do this. I keep hitting a wall, or I'm not sure where to go from here. Now you can go on AI in 2025. You can just go on and say, okay, chat, I am not getting my writing done. I keep saying I'm going to do it and I'm not. Go out and look at the interviews and YouTube videos and memoirs of people like, Stephen King, and put in your favorite, prolific writers and build me a writing plan. What do I need to do? And here's all the commitments I have and all the excuses I have. Here's my mindset. Here's my time limitations, and then build me a plan. Or maybe it's not about writing. I'm just having such a hard time doing this sales outreach, right? And so it's like, find me, what were the way that pick your favorite people? How did Marie Forleo and Mel Robbins and Brene Brown break through to being such global thought leaders? What did they do early on? Not what they're doing now, because what they're doing now is when they're already a household name. What did they do early on, right? So we can use, this is where we combine the DI, divine intelligence, with the AI, the artificial intelligence, and wrap it in our CI, our creative intelligence. Okay, that's the new Venn diagram, the DI, the CI, and the AI when they come together. All right. So this is what I'm offering to everybody for this week. This is how we're going to have a breakthrough. This is how we're going to be powerful thought leaders. Every day, for those of you willing to accept this mission, you're going to remind yourself of your top 3 goals. You're going to claim the identity of the person who it's inevitable that they achieve them. They've already done it. You're going to say, what are the 3 to 5 P1s, priority ones, that this person would take today in order to achieve those goals by the end of the year? And then you're going to find a buddy, right? You're going to find someone so that you can tell them what your P1s are and what you did by the end of the day. When you get in that and you really make a commitment together, it can be life-changing. Yes, people are like, can I do it with myself? Can I do it with AI? Sure, you can try it. The question is, are you hitting those P1s? I hit them more when it is a real human that I'm in relationship with, that I don't want to say I didn't do it. Because even, Chat GPT, I can say be mean, or, be firm, but ultimately it's different than with someone I don't want to disappoint and let down. It's not about the other person. It's just keeping me accountable, right? This is where I will use my people pleasing. Normally I want to get rid of it. This is where I will use it to help motivate me. Okay. Those of you that are like, I don't know anywhere to meet someone who would do this kind of accountability. I don't know people in my life. I get it. I didn't either. And that's why we have the Monetize Your Book Club. That's why we are getting together in New York City for Women Starting Movements, October 7th through 9th. All right. And those of you in the Monetize Your Book Club, we start the Abundance Accelerator today. Today at 2:00 Eastern, we're doing the Abundance Accelerator so that we just work as a group, whether you're creating an abundance of money, an abundance of visibility, and you're going to set your own goal. Okay, so team, for everybody on social and here in the Zoom room, if you can share those links, if you're not already in the Monetize Your Book Club, make sure to get your founding founding members membership, because we have Abundance Accelerator today. We have our first quarterly networking on Wednesdays. You're going to actually meet people to make partnerships and do referrals and get inspired and find an accountability buddy. You can find one today at 2:00 Eastern time to come in the yes, and of course we'll do replays. Those of you that are in it. Okay, so make sure to join the club. And same thing, if you know you need to be in the room, because when I get physically in person with people, it's a 3 to 10x multiple. What does that mean? It means that when I'm in person, and I spend a lot of time and money attending in-person masterminds, conferences, retreats, and workshops, and I host many a year, because it's like 3 months to a year's worth of progress happens in 3 days. And so we have, I think someone checked on our team, 14 tickets left as of this morning for New York. So grab yours today, team, if you can share the chat. Those of you who are listening to the podcast and watching on other platforms, we'll put it in the show notes. But 14 spots left. Make sure you can be in that room, right? I know it's a lot. It's travel. It's all things. Of course, I get it. And in the Monetize Your Book Club, everything's virtual. But this is such an exciting opportunity to be in the room with other people who are making the leaps. You'll strengthen that priority one partners to instill that identity. And this time you're going to meet speaking agents and writers from the top magazines like Forbes that feature thought leaders, and TV producers, and who else do we have? TEDx organizers, and we have our intellectual property attorney will be there. So you can ask your legal questions. All right. Like, it's going to be a powerhouse space. And if you haven't come to one of these before, this could be the moment that really does change the course of the rest of your life. And I say that with just full looking at my own life. My very first conference like this that I attended changed. Not only did it open up revenue and partnerships and friendships and possibilities, it changed the way I felt about myself. It changed the identity I was operating from. I got a new operating system. And as I looked back and traced every year since then, what made the biggest difference, it was going in person to these events and being part of online communities that reinforced it. So I'm excited for you all to join us. Get your tickets now so that you can make sure that you can join us and make sure you're in the room physically, because they did cut off they have a fire code limit of how many people we can have in the space. All right. So I'm really excited for everyone to try this. Put P in the chat if you're ready to be prosperous, productive by doing your priority actions this week. And if you're on the social platform streaming in or watching this podcast episode, give us a note in the comments, right? Ready to be prosperous, productive by doing priority actions. That is our thought leader strategy of the week. And I'm fired up for you to do it. And I'm going to wrap this here so that we can spend the next, if you blocked out this hour, you go, I'm going to commit to completing 2 of my P1s before the top of the hour. So let's do it together, right? If we were in the room, go hands in, go team. All right. I will see everyone next time. Have an amazing week. And I'll see hopefully a lot of you today at 2:00 for the Monetize Your Book Club Abundance Accelerator. See you soon.